Hello everybody, my name is Georgia Ironman and I'll be talking to you today about my junior project. My original project idea was to rejuvenate our school garden. My initial goal was to clean out 2 plots, rejuvenate the soil, and plant a few crops. Then I would go to the elementary schoolers and take them out to work on the garden, maybe have them propagate some seeds and grow some stuff themselves. The goal of this was to make our campus more sustainable through food and get younger kids engaged in their environment and sustainability. I was given permission to fix up 2 garden plots by the basketball courts and then plant there. For the first few months of the project, a couple of my friends and I dug out any roots and weeded the plots, tilled and rehydrated the soil, and dug out any weeds or dead bushes around the plots. Then I went out and bought plants. I secured tomatoes, eggplant, bell pepper, basil, rosemary, and squash. Unfortunately, this was about the time my original plans changed. There was a situation that happened regarding space and a massive miscommunication that led to me not being able to plant in that space, and when that communication issue was resolved, there was very little time left for me to plant. So I had to change my plans. I still wanted to stick with the sustainability theme. I reached out to one of the 5th grade teachers, Mr. Meyer, and a 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Cole. I created a presentation about the importance of sustainability and about our current relationship with the island of Maui. I also created a contest for the kids to participate in, and I'll explain a little bit more about these things later. I ended up presenting to 3 different classes. I started off with an introduction about the topic and then gave a little bit of an about me. My name is Georgia, and I'll be talking to you guys about sustainability. So just to start off, I'm going to do a little bit about me so you guys know who you're talking to. I'm 16 years old and I go to Kia Charter, and I've been going here since middle school. I've always been very interested in sustainability and climate change. And I started going to rallies and stuff at around the 6th grade. I was about 11 years old. And I started doing Fridays for Future when I was in the 7th grade. That's a climate strike at Striped School and stood outside of the mayor's office. Around that time I started organizing rallies with my friends, talking to the mayor, got recognized by the county council, and we got Maui to declare a climate emergency. So I know it seems like you guys are really little, there's not much you can do, but if you're creative about it and you're persistent, you can make a difference, and that's super cool. Because of COVID, we kind of had to stop our little rallies, but during that time I still researched myself and I made personal choices to make my life more sustainable. Like I decided to stop eating red meat, I learned how to sew so I could fix my own clothing, and I started buying secondhand, I started taking public transit and carpooling. And I just recently finished this thing called NALU, which was a environmental science program. I did it for 2 weeks. And we just did a lot of restoration work, we learned about our environment, we learned about Maui. Then I talked about what sustainability is and why it is important. So what is sustainability? Does anybody know?
Nope.
It is like we have to keep our earth clean, like litter too much. Then our earth won't have any more green.
Good, thank you. So sustainability is essentially a balance between humans and the planet. It's the integration of environmental health and practices into every aspect of life. And it's how we can coexist and sustain ourselves on the planet while keeping it healthy and flourishing, and keep our resources abundant. Now, why is that so important? As you guys probably know, our planet has very limited resources. Fuel, food, water, space, all of those are limited. And because of that, we need to be conscientious about how we are using them. Being sustainable means that we have enough resources for us and future generations. And when we're sustainable, we have a healthy relationship with our land. I discussed ways they could be more sustainable in their personal lives. So how can we as individuals be more sustainable and eco-friendly? We're going to have questions right at the end, so just say whatever you want, keep it in your brain. So number 1, clothing. Clothing is the way you can be super sustainable. Now, I know you guys are little, so you're probably growing out of stuff really, really fast. Once you get older, like me, and you stay one size for a pretty long time, and you start buying your own clothes, you can start doing these things. You can wear things for a really long time. Try not to keep buying and throwing away and throwing away. Keep one thing, wear it for a while. Buying secondhand is a really good way of being sustainable. How many of you guys have older siblings or cousins or friends? You guys get hand-me-downs from them? Wear stuff that they used to wear. Good.
Although she's way older, she's also in high school. I'm going to she's a freshman. How do I buy my 23-year-old?
All right. You can also be sustainable through clothing by repairing what you already have. Learn how to sew. Quick stitches, super easy. I started learning how to sew when I was in like 7th, 8th grade, but it's not super hard. You can hand stitch. So if you have a big hole in the side of your shirt, stitch it up. No big deal. All fixed. You don't have to throw it away. Food waste is also a really important part of sustainability. Don't take more than you can eat. You can always go back for seconds, but you know, think with your brain, not your stomach. Store things properly when you go grocery shopping. You get home, cut up your veggies, put them in a container, they'll last a week longer than if you just let them sit in the refrigerator. Super easy. You guys can start composting fruit, vegetables, eggshells, and turn garbage into dirt. Gardening is a really good way of being sustainable. If you can produce your own food, you're less dependent on grocery stores. Grocery stores import a lot of stuff from the mainland, and that uses a lot of fuel, energy, which is not good. So if you can be less dependent on that, it's really helpful. Promoting pollinators is also a really good way of being eco-friendly. You can do this by planting native flowers in your yard, limiting the use of pesticides on your lawn, leaving shallow dishes of water outside for drinking water for the pollinators. You could also have a biodiverse lawn. Does anyone know what that is? Right, good, I'll tell you. A biodiverse lawn is when you have a variety of species and native plants in your lawn instead of just grass. Recycling is super important. You can do like the basic thing, recycle cans, plastic, cardboard, glass, commercially. But you can also do little things, like reuse things that don't work anymore. Like if your shirt is too stained, too ripped up, you can't wear it anymore, don't throw it away, turn it into a rag. If you have trash, extra scrap paper, make an art project. Whatever you can do, whatever garbage, see if you can reuse it in a different way. Consuming. Everyone should be aware of like what you're buying, what you're eating, how much energy you're using. Just be aware of the resources that you are using. Buying local meat and produce, that kind of falls back into the grocery store thing. Buying food from local businesses like Kula Farms, Maui Hub, makes you less dependent on grocery stores and lessens the fuel used to import food. Because local produce, they grow right here. They don't need boats and ships to carry them to Maui. Using reef-safe sunscreen is a really good way of being eco-friendly. Check labels for harmful chemicals. Make sure you're using mineral sunscreen, and this all prevents coral bleaching. And it's actually really great because Maui just passed a new law making it illegal to have any like chemical sunscreen. It's all mineral, so that shouldn't be too hard for you guys. Picking up garbage, super easy. If you're at a park or a beach, see garbage, pick it up, throw it away. Last two, saving energy, saving water. I'm sure you guys already do this stuff. Just turning off lights when you're not using it, turning off electronics when not using it, open windows instead of using air conditioning, taking cold showers, taking short showers, turning off the sink when you're not using it. All super basic. Really the premise of all of this is to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Then I had a discussion about Maui's current relationship with land. I discussed droughts and fires, pollution and microplastics, our disrupted Ahupua'a system, shoreline erosion, and coral bleaching. So I'll be talking a little bit now about Maui's current relationship with our land. I'll be discussing droughts and fires, pollution and microplastics, our disrupted Ahupua'a system, shoreline erosion, and coral bleaching. Starting off with droughts and fires. So Maui has very dry seasons, and when this happens, the dead plants, dead shrubs, dead grass, they are prone to set on fire. And Maui becomes very susceptible to fires and droughts during this time. And this gets rid of plants that are holding land in place. So when it rains, all that dirt and stuff, it washes into the ocean. The land erodes, which is not good. So what can we do to help this? We can plant native and endemic plants because they are very drought tolerant. If they stay alive for a long time, they're less likely to burn up. Also, native and endemic plants, they're very deep rooted into the ground, so they're more likely to keep the land in place. Pollution and microplastics. Pollution is when harmful materials get into the environment. This is detrimental to animals and their habitats. Animals eat plastic. Plastic gets caught up in coral reefs. Not good. What can we do about this? We can limit personal plastic consumption. Try not to use plastic when you can. If you're eating out somewhere, make sure you don't get a spoon. You can just use it at home. How many of you guys eat in the cafeteria every day? Most days. You guys can consider bringing your own utensils so you don't have to use a plastic spoon or fork every day. Super tiny things can make a big difference. Picking up garbage when you're outside, you see a piece of plastic rolling around, pick it up, throw it away. Kind of a bigger thing is passing laws that limit plastic use. Like we just recently passed a law that restricts restaurants from just giving you plastic forks and utensils. You have to ask for it, so there's not a bunch of extra plastic just going around. Next, I'll be talking about our disrupted agua system. Do any of you guys know what an agua is?
Yeah, we learned that.
Great, that's great to hear. So for those who don't know, an agua is a land division system, and it's essential for moving water from the mountain to the ocean, filtering nutrients, and if it's disrupted, it can cause flooding, water pollution, an overabundance of nutrients in the ocean. So how our island used to be set up, there used to be forests going all the way down to Kihei. And Kihei did not have this abundance of infrastructure. It was wetlands. And the ocean, it had a bunch of momoias, which are fish ponds. But now, all that forest from the edge of the mountain to Kihei got cut down, turned into ranch land. Kihei is filled with development now, and there's a lot of impervious surfaces, which are sidewalks, cement, something that water cannot penetrate. And all of our fish ponds are destroyed, pretty much.
We have one.
Yeah, we have one, and we're working on fixing it.
Kalepo.
Good, thank you. So because of that, when it rains, the water just flows through the little forest that we have left, goes straight down into the ranch land, and because we don't have wetlands anymore, straight through Kihei. That's why when it rains, it floods up here. And all that nutrients, pesticides, dirt, it gets pushed into the ocean. That's not good. And that's why when it rains, there's a bunch of flooding and fish dumping. So how can this be helped? We can plant native species in our yard because when it rains, native species, like I said, are very deep rooted. It'll absorb all that water. Grass does not do that. It's very shallow roots, so it just puddles up. We could start healing our relationship with the agua. Up here is kind of like an idealized layout for the island. Up here is forest zone. There'd be very limited development. There'd be restricted hunting, no cutting down trees. Down here is the agriculture zone, which is where ideally most of our food would come from. And down here along the coast is the living zone, and then the restored fish ponds. And you guys might be wondering, hey, what happens if all the water just starts flooding because the agua is restored? Well, the stream would be diverted into the agriculture zones, and then we'd restore the wetlands, and it would be diverted through the living zone. We'd work ourselves around it. And yeah, another little thing, that's pretty ambitious. It's kind of like the ideal situation for us. But something that we can start doing now is restoring our wetlands and fish ponds, which I will talk about a little later. Shoreline erosion is when the ocean pulls away rocks and sand from the shore, causing the displacement of the coastline. And this is due to infrastructure development along the coast and a lack of native plants planted on the shoreline. Because native plants, they hold the shoreline in place because the roots go deep. So how can this be helped? We can limit infrastructure development on the coast and plant deep-rooted plants on the shoreline. For example, Naupaka, that's a really good plant to plant along the coast.
What's that spell?
Last thing I'll be talking about is coral bleaching. Coral bleaching can happen for a lot of different reasons. Like the water is too warm, it gets stepped on, there's not safe sunscreen, and coral is very delicate. There's a lot of things that can hurt it. So what can we do to help? You could use reef-safe sunscreen when you go swimming, and make sure not to touch the reefs. Be very careful when you're snorkeling or swimming around that you're not stepping on anything, touching it with your hands. I then shared organizations they could get involved in. Okay, I know this sounds like a lot for you guys. It can be very stressful, very overwhelming. What can you guys do about it? Thankfully, there's a ton of organizations that are, their main focus is helping the earth. And there are a lot of these things you guys can get involved in. I'll be answering questions in a second if you just want to. Coral Reef Alliance, for example. I started volunteering when I was about 11 years old. You guys are what, 9, 10?
10. 25.
You guys could volunteer there with parents, friends, and they focus a lot on native plant restoration and shoreline restoration. So you'd be doing a lot of manual work, things like propagating plants, planting, painting, digging, moving rocks around. Super easy, super fun, super helpful. The NALU program is the thing that I just participated in. You guys might be a little young for that, but it's been around for over 10 years, and it's going to be around for a couple years more. So if you guys feel like doing it when you're 13, 14, you totally should. It's an environmental science program, and it's 2 weeks of extensive restoration work. And it's amazing. And I highly recommend it. And I'll be sharing that your teacher has this, so if you guys want to look at any of these links, it's available to you. Maui Fish Pond Restoration. We just talked about the importance of fish ponds for filtering nutrients into the ocean. So these guys are working on rebuilding the fish pond down in Kihei. So you guys can be a part of the restoration for that. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is Kalia Ponds Restoration. We also talked about the importance of wetlands, and it helps filter nutrients. So you can do restoration work up there. I also did that during the NALU program. You can plant native and endemic plants, dig, just restoration. The next one is the Retree Hawaii. They plant trees. Most of the time they do it up on the mountains, but they're actually coming to campus on Monday to plant some trees.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, finally. Like on the roundabout.
No, I think just around.
Thank goodness the fire ruined our place. It's now a desert. You can't even see deserts on Google. You search it up. Keep it. Beautiful things. They literally like Photoshop it to be greenery.
Well, soon it will be greenery. Thanks to Retree Hawaii. And you guys can get involved. You can volunteer.
Like the new school takes a picture on Google and they put it on Google, but they Photoshopped it. Greenery. You can literally search it up on Google.
We're working on it.
I feel like everyone's
The Pacific Whale Foundation is also a super helpful organization. You can adopt a beach, or there's a ton of kids programs, and they focus on outdoor education. Last one is Kikuko Oluwalu. They plant native plants and taro patches. If you work there, it's just restoration work. You can weed, plant. That's also something I did during fall break. And the team is super nice. Highly recommend it. It's great.
and some video game.
These are all organizations that you guys can personally get involved in, and these links are available to you if you ask your teacher. I opened the floor to questions. Thank you guys so much. Do you guys have any questions?
Is there video game programs?
I don't know if there's any video game programs about sustainability.
Do all of the programs.
It's hard, but it's definitely rewarding. It's totally worth it.
Are the programs money?
A lot of them aren't. Like the NALU program that was completely free. Pretty much everything up there you can volunteer for free.
I feel like it should be free.
Absolutely. Everyone should have the resources to help out.
How long did it take you to make that?
Make that probably about like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
It's like a job. What got you interested in like climate change?
Well, when I was a little older than you guys, I started like the changes that were happening in my environment. Like I noticed that there weren't as many rainy seasons as there were when I was a little kid, and there were a ton of fires happening, and I was wondering why that was happening. My friend's mom, she works at the head of Environmental and Sustainability Division on Maui, so I talked to her about that, and that just kind of led into me learning about Fridays for Future and the climate strikes, and that's what started off.
The fish pond restoration one, is that one money?
You don't have to pay for any of those things, anything. It's all volunteer. Is your sister Leilani?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. She's a really nice girl.
Did you sew your backpack?
I added those patches on, yeah. Looks good. Any other questions?
Oh yeah, are these programs that you can do all year round, or are they just summer programs?
The Maui program, it's a fall program and a spring program, and I think they have summer sessions. Pretty much everything else we all year round,
All
yeah.
year round.
If you go back to, this is more of a comment, but if you go back to the slides, it's like, it has the little wedge thingy at the beach with a bunch of sticks.
The shoreline erosion, yeah.
Yeah, I've been to those places.
Really? Maybe. Yeah.
Yay!
And lastly, I went over the contest.
You have one more to do, okay, guys?
Who here enjoys contests?
That was so delayed. Like 2 seconds, and then everyone was like,
So I have a contest for you guys. The title is How Can I Be More Sustainable and Eco-Friendly? There's 1-point activities, 5-point activities, and 10-point activities. The 1-point activities, super easy, things like turning off lights when you're not home, keeping your refrigerator door closed, taking a 5-minute shower, picking up 5 pieces of garbage, stuff you guys probably already did.
how do you get 20 points?
I don't know how to take. I'm not allowed to take 5-minute showers. My parents say I'm only allowed
And
to
then
take
5-point activities are things like
Those are
planting a
less
garden, or buying local meat or produce, and carpooling with friends for a week. And the 10-point activity, most points, but it might be the easiest one. You just have to tell me what's a creative way you think you can be more eco-friendly in your life. You can write a paragraph or draw a picture, as long as I know what's going on. So, what you guys are going to do is go through this list, and you guys are going to have a couple days to do this. I'll be back on Wednesday or so. And I'll pick it up.
I'll see you.
That's great.
Here's my tutor.
So you guys are going to knock off any ones you do, and write in the questions. And whoever has the most points at the end of it, whoever has the most points by Wednesday will get a very special prize. I can't tell you, it's a surprise.
What happened?
If there's a tie, you guys can both get prizes.
Alright, I'm in.
Wait, what if you're not allowed to like open your refrigerator? Wait, what was one of them? It said like don't open your.
Keep your refrigerator door closed when you're not using it.
But what if you have to leave it open?
Why would you have to leave it open?
You just gotta throw it off the mountain and then just use it.
Shh, guys, one at a time.
If you guys already do any of the stuff on this list, you can check it off.
Or
That's
what if
fine.
you can't write a paragraph?
You can.
Draw a picture then.
To make sure that you guys are all really doing it, I would love if your parents initialed the last page.
Can you
Just to
draw a
check.
picture on that one?
Yes, you can draw a picture.
Of what?
Whatever you do want to do to be eco-friendly in your life.
This is fun homework.
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah, it is.
I know. Draw your refrigerator on.
And I will come back
I'm
around
gonna
Wednesday.
get you my promise. Yay, you'll be back. Let's go fishing. We go back. Let's go. The ocean.
I came back a week later and collected all of the contest papers and then counted up how many points they won. I gave a presentation like this to 3 different classes. The goal of this was to get kids engaged in learning about their environment and motivate them to make more sustainable choices. I've always struggled with the feeling of being out of power. When I was younger especially, I felt like nothing I did mattered, and the choices I made didn't affect anything, and just because I was young, I couldn't make a difference. I wanted to show kids that it's possible to have an impact even with the most minuscule daily choices. I also wanted to open them up to opportunities to get out and explore their home through volunteering. I lacked such a huge amount of understanding from my home before I went out and worked in it, and I feel like it's such a valuable experience. And I wanted to spark an interest for at least a few of those kids, and I feel like I did that.